So you want to live lighter, but your stuff is holding you back. This video is for you. This is the third time I'm heating up this coffee. I can't seem to finish it this morning. So unlike me, but here we are. Whether you like it or not, living lighter means invariably that you have to let some things go. And I get that that can be a really uncomfortable process. A few years ago, I downsized to this 400 square foot apartment. And at first it was a struggle to let go of possessions in my life, but the more I did, the more I realized that my belongings were really holding me back, and I was able to live a much freer, happier life with less stuff. And I didn't have to let go of everything to be happy. What I did was I prioritized the things that were most important to me, and that took away a lot of the noise and clutter in my life. So if you're in a place in your life where you're needing to downsize, or you're looking to do a bit of decluttering to clarify and simplify your own life, I want to share in this video 6 questions that you can ask yourself to help with the decluttering process. And if this is your first time watching, I'm Tina. I live in a small space and I love to talk about intentional living and personal style and everything in between. If that suits you, I hope you'll hit subscribe. I'm pretty new on YouTube, but I have lots of ideas for content, so I look forward to seeing you more. Let's dive into some questions to ask yourself in the decluttering process. The very first thing that you want to ask yourself when you're deciding whether or not to part with an item is, do I love this item? You can see that we're in my living room right now, and that's it. There's not a lot to it. But one thing I can say about what's in here is it's only full of the stuff that I love. And that makes my life so much simpler and happier. If you don't have a strong emotional attachment to an item, it might be easier to let it go. So consider the joy or positive memories associated with the item. If it doesn't bring you happiness or hold sentimental value, it might be a candidate for removal. Question number 2 to ask yourself when deciding whether or not to part with something is, do I use this item regularly? Now, you can see we're in the kitchen right now. I feel like this is a perfect example of regular use of items. We can tend to store a lot of things in our kitchen that we don't use regularly, and it adds clutter, and it honestly makes things way more complicated than they need to be. I ended up gaining tons of space in my kitchen by thinking through the items that I need on the regular and getting rid of stuff that wasn't really useful to me. There's lots of examples where the items just really don't serve a purpose enough to create the space in your life that they're taking up. I pared down this kitchen gadget drawer to just one drawer in my whole kitchen that has all of the tools that I use on the regular. You can see some pretty simple things here like can openers. This is a grater, a lemon zester. These are things that I use regularly, and so I can justify keeping them. Set some parameters for yourself though on how often you use things and whether or not they're useful to keep around as a result. Question number 3 to ask yourself in this process is, do I need this item? And we're in the bathroom to illustrate my point because I want to show you how simple it can be to live with just the needs. Let's take our shower caddy, for example. So you'll notice it's not overflowing with product. I use the top shelf and my husband Rob uses the lower shelf. You'll notice up top that there's body wash, shampoo, conditioner, and face wash, and that's really all I need. I don't have any extras. And then when it comes to my husband, Rob, he is actually bald, so he doesn't even use shampoo or conditioner, but you'll see there's a razor and some body wash and as well face wash. So we're living with just what we need in this space, and it makes life so much simpler. And when you're determining what your needs are, I think this illustrates that it's really important to think through the lens of what you specifically need. And a perfect example is the fact that my husband Rob doesn't need shampoo and conditioner because he doesn't have hair. It's different for every person, and something that you should keep in mind when you're thinking about how to set yourself up in a small space, as well as the decluttering process and the things that you might want to keep or let go of. In the bedroom for question number 4, and the question that you want to ask yourself through the declutter process is, could somebody else use this item? I want to emphasize that letting go of stuff doesn't mean that we throw it all in the landfill. It doesn't have to be a wasteful process. There are plenty of options in the secondhand economy so that you can sell your items or donate and allow somebody else to get value out of them. We're in the bedroom to illustrate my point because I am a style lover, as you can see, and at the end of every season, I typically do a big cull where I review everything in my closet and make sure that it's still working for me. And the items that I am ready to part with usually go in a bag like this. And often I'll rely on Facebook Marketplace or a selling app like Depop or Poshmark, or a local consignment store to let go of these items. I make sure that whatever I am seeing out of my home will be something that somebody else can use, and there's no waste involved. So we're in front of the credenza that we have in the hallway to illustrate question number 5, which is, do I have a designated place for this item? A very key thing about the declutter process, especially if you're living in a small space, is if you don't have a designated home for an item, it might be harder to keep your space organized and to ensure that your space is how you want it to feel in the end. Making sure that everything has its own home in your space not only helps you to keep things orderly, but it also helps you to find and access your belongings as you need. Let's take a look at this credenza. We made a deal when we moved into this place that we were only going to keep the books and paper items and office supplies that would fit into this small space. So you can see we've got a handful of books. Rob is an RMT, so there's a number of textbooks there as well, a couple of additional knickknacks and supplies at the bottom, and this is what we deemed important to us. If you're a big book person, this arrangement might not work for you. You might decide that you want to keep more than this. This is just to illustrate that we made some decisions around what was important to us. We decided to keep some things. We limited the space to what was available to us to store, and as a result, all of these little pieces have their own home, and because they're tucked away, they create less clutter for us. Coming back to the living room right now for the last question, which is this item worth the space that it would be taking up in your home? Space is valuable, so you want to think about the items that you're bringing in as the larger the item, the more value it should provide. A good example is this couch. It takes up a good half of our living room, but it's also where we kind of live half of our lives. We love to watch movies and cuddle up, and we find it really comfy. So for us, it justifies the space because it provides the subsequent value that we're looking for in our lives. So with each item that you're thinking about in terms of the declutter process, it should justify the emotional or physical value that it offers. And if it doesn't, it might be a signal that it's time to let it go. That wraps up 6 questions you can ask yourself to help with the decluttering process. I hope this helps you if you're struggling to let go of things, to feel lighter and easier and stop second guessing yourself when it comes to stuff. I can promise you that a less complicated, clutter-free life is on the other side of this process. You can do it, and it's a great feeling once you get to the other side. If you liked this video, it would help me out so much if you would hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. As I said, I'm new to YouTube, but I will be creating more videos like this for folks who are interested in small space, intentional living. Thanks again for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.